The ship came down from the sky on a Tuesday morning. It was not like the movies had shown. There were no flames, no loud sounds, no panic in the streets. The vessel simply appeared above Geneva, floating like a silver leaf on still water. It was beautiful in a way that made people stop and stare with open mouths. Admiral Yuki Tanaka watched from the window of the United Earth Assembly Building. She was 53 years old, with gray streaks in her black hair and eyes that had seen too many battles. 30 years ago, when she was young, humanity had received the first message from the stars. Now, the stars had finally come to visit. The ship opened like a flower. From inside came a being made of living crystal. It was tall and thin, and light moved through its body like blood through veins. When it spoke, its voice came from everywhere at once. "I am the voice of harmony," it said. "I speak for the Galactic Concord. We have watched your species for many cycles. Today, we offer you a gift." The assembly hall was full of world leaders, presidents, prime ministers, generals, scientists. They all listened as the voice of harmony explained the offer. The Galactic Concord was old. 4,000 species had joined it over 11,000 years. Together, they had ended war. They had ended disease. They had ended death itself. Every being in the Concord lived in perfect peace, connected through something called the Great Synthesis. "Join us," the voice said. "Accept the synthesis, and you will never know pain again. Your children will never know fear. Your species will live forever, among the stars, in eternal harmony." The room exploded with questions. Leaders shouted over each other. Some were excited. Some were scared. Some were already planning how to use this for their own power. Admiral Tanaka said nothing. She watched, she listened, and she noticed something strange. That night, she sat in her office with Dr. Marcus Cole. He was a brain scientist, thin and nervous, with glasses that he pushed up his nose every few seconds. On the table between them were data files that the Concord had shared with humanity. "Look at this," Marcus said. He pointed to a graph on his tablet. "This is the innovation rate of species before they joined the Concord. Art, science, technology, philosophy, all of it." Tanaka looked at the lines going up. They were growing. Yes. Now look at after they joined. The lines went flat. Not down. Just flat. For thousands of years. "They stopped," Tanaka said slowly. "They stopped creating." Marcus nodded. "Every single one. The moment they joined the synthesis, they stopped changing. No new art, no new ideas, no new questions." He took off his glasses and rubbed his eyes. "Admiral, I've studied the brain my whole life. Do you know what happens when a brain stops questioning? It's not peace. It's death. Just slower." Tanaka stood and walked to the window. Outside, the alien ship still floated above the city. It was beautiful. Everything about the Concord was beautiful. "Show me the species themselves," she said. Marcus pulled up the files. Image after image appeared. Beings of all shapes and sizes. Some had wings, some had tentacles, some looked almost human. All of them had the same expression, the same empty, peaceful smile. "They look happy," Tanaka said. "They look like they're sleeping with their eyes open." In the morning, Tanaka requested a meeting with the voice of harmony. She went alone. The crystal being received her inside the ship. The walls were smooth and white. There were no corners, no edges, nothing sharp. Everything curved gently into everything else. "You have questions," the voice said. It was not a question. "Your people don't create anymore," Tanaka said. "They don't invent. They don't write stories or compose music." "Why?" The voice tilted its crystalline head. "Why would they? Creation comes from need, from pain, from the desire to fill emptiness. In the synthesis, there is no emptiness. There is no need. There is only peace. But without creation, without change, what is the point of living?" "Living is the point," the voice said. "To exist in harmony, to feel no suffering. Is that not enough?" Tanaka was quiet for a long moment. "What if we refuse?" The voice went still. Light stopped moving through its body. "No species has refused. But what if we do? Then you will continue as you are. Fighting, dying, destroying yourselves and each other. We have seen it many times. Young species burn bright and then burn out. It is always the same. And you would just let us?" The voice's light began moving again, but differently now. faster, sharper. We are patient. We are kind. We offer the gift freely. But we have also learned that some sicknesses require treatment even when the patient refuses. Conflict is a disease. Admiral, the synthesis is the cure. Tanaka felt cold. Are you threatening us? We are offering you 30 of your days to accept unity. After that, if you refuse, we will help you anyway. Some call it correction. We call it compassion. Tanaka walked out of the ship without another word. That night, she called a secret meeting. 20 of the most powerful people on Earth sat in a dark room and listened as she told them what she had learned. They want to erase us, she said. Not our bodies. Our minds. Everything that makes us human. Our anger. Our ambition. Our curiosity. They see these things as diseases. They want to cut them out of us and leave behind something quiet and empty and obedient. The room was silent. We have 30 days, Tanaka continued. 30 days to decide if we want to be human, or if we want to be pets in a beautiful cage. An old general spoke up. Can we fight them? Tanaka shook her head. Their technology is thousands of years ahead of ours. We would lose. Then what choice do we have? Tanaka looked around the room. She saw fear in every face, but she also saw something else. A spark. A stubborn, stupid, beautiful spark. We have the choice to refuse, she said. To stand up and say no. To fight even if we cannot win. That is the most human thing we can do. The meeting ended without a decision. But the seed had been planted. Above Geneva, the silver ship waited. The voice of harmony waited. The galaxy waited. And humanity began to argue about its future. As it always had. As perhaps it always would. 29 days remained. The world had never been more divided. And somehow, that gave Admiral Tanaka hope. In every city, on every continent, people were fighting. Not with weapons, but with words. Families argued at dinner tables. Friends stopped speaking to each other. Protests filled the streets, some carrying signs that said, "Accept peace," and others carrying signs that said, "Stay human." The unificationists believed the Concord's offer was salvation. No more war, no more hunger, no more death. They called the sovereigns foolish and selfish, willing to doom humanity for the sake of pride. The sovereigns believed the offer was a trap. They called the unificationists cowards, willing to give up everything that made life worth living for the sake of comfort. Dr. Marcus Cole spent his days in a laboratory, studying every piece of data the Concorde had shared. He barely slept. He barely ate. His wife called him 3 times a day, and 3 times a day he promised to come home soon. On day 15, he found what he was looking for. He burst into Admiral Tanaka's office without knocking. His eyes were red and his hands were shaking, but there was a fire in his face. "I know what the synthesis really does," he said. He threw a folder on her desk. "It doesn't just connect minds. It changes them. Look at these brain scans." Tanaka looked. She was not a scientist, but even she could see the difference. The brain scans of species before the synthesis were complex, full of activity in many different areas. The scans after the synthesis were simpler. Large portions of the brain were dark, unused. "They don't just connect to each other," Marcus said. "They lose parts of themselves. The parts that feel ambition. The parts that question authority. The parts that dream of something better." He leaned on the desk, breathing hard. "Admiral, the synthesis doesn't create peace. It creates obedience. They're not sharing minds. They're being pruned, like trees, cut down to fit a certain shape." That night, someone leaked footage to the world. No one knew where it came from. Some said it was stolen from the Concorde's ship. Some said it was given by a traitor among the aliens. The footage showed a planet called Veth 6. Before the synthesis, the Veth people had been artists. They had built cities of colored glass and written songs that lasted for days. Their world had been alive with creation. The footage showed Veth 6 after 10,000 years in the Concorde. The cities still stood. The glass still shone. But the Veth walked through their beautiful world like ghosts. They did not sing. They did not create. They sat in perfect circles and hummed the same low note together. Hour after hour. Day after day. Forever. Billions of people watched the footage. Many who had supported the Concorde began to change their minds. On day 28, the United Earth Assembly held the final vote. Admiral Tanaka sat in the gallery and watched. The voice of harmony stood in the center of the great hall, its crystal body catching the light from 100 windows. One by one, nations cast their votes. Yes to join the Concord. No to remain alone. The first hour went badly for the sovereigns. Large nations voted yes. Europe said yes. Most of Asia said yes. People in the gallery began to cry. Then something shifted. Smaller nations began to vote no. Countries that had known occupation and control. Countries that had fought for their freedom. Countries that remembered what it meant to lose their identity. They said no. South America said no. Africa said no. The vote grew closer and closer. In the end, it came down to 3%. 51.5% of humanity chose to refuse the Concord. The voice of harmony stood perfectly still. The light inside its body flickered like a dying flame. Admiral Tanaka rose from her seat and walked to the floor of the assembly. Every eye in the room was on her. Every camera on Earth was watching. "You asked us to join you," she said to the voice of harmony. "You offered us peace. You offered us forever. And we are grateful for the offer." She paused. The room was silent. "But we cannot accept. We are a young species. We are loud and messy, and we hurt each other more than we should. We fight wars we should not fight. We make mistakes that cost millions of lives." Her voice grew stronger. "But we also love. We create. We dream of things that have never existed, and then we build them with our hands. We are not perfect. We will never be perfect. And that is exactly why we choose to remain free." She looked directly into the voice's crystalline eyes. "We would rather burn bright and die free than fade into your eternal twilight." For a long moment, the voice said nothing. Then its body flickered with something new. Not light, something darker. "Regrettable," it said. The voice turned and walked out of the assembly hall. It did not look back. It boarded its silver ship, and the ship rose into the sky and vanished among the stars. For 1 hour, humanity celebrated. People danced in the streets. Strangers hugged each other. It felt like victory. Then the message came. It appeared on every screen on Earth at the same time. It was not from the voice of harmony. It was from the Concord itself. 4,000 species speaking with one voice. The species known as humanity has refused the gift of synthesis. This is the first refusal in 11,000 years. The Concord does not allow refusal. Correction will begin in 7 of your days. Prepare to receive compassion. The screens went dark. Admiral Tanaka stood in her office and looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, the largest fleet in the history of the galaxy was turning toward Earth. She picked up her phone and called Dr. Marcus Cole. "We have 7 days," she said. "Find me a way to fight." On the other end of the line, Marcus Cole laughed. It was not a happy laugh, but it was a human laugh. "I'll see what I can do," he said. Outside, the celebration continued. People did not know what was coming. They would learn soon enough. But for one night, at least, humanity was free. And that was worth something. It had to be worth something. They came on the 7th day, exactly as promised. Admiral Tanaka stood on the bridge of the battleship Phoenix and watched her screen fill with enemy ships. There were so many that they blocked out the stars. The computer stopped counting at 10,000. Humanity's entire fleet was 200 ships. Some were old. Some were held together with hope and welding tape. But every single one had a crew of volunteers who had kissed their families goodbye and flown into the dark. "Admiral," said her first officer. "They're hailing us." The voice of harmony appeared on screen. Its crystal body glowed with soft light. "This is your final chance," it said. "Accept the synthesis willingly, and the process will be gentle. Your memories will be preserved. Your identity will continue, in a way. Refuse again, and we will be forced to use harder methods." Tanaka looked at the alien fleet. Each ship was smooth and perfect, designed by minds that had forgotten how to make mistakes. They had never known defeat. They had never needed to adapt. They had never faced an enemy that refused to follow the rules. "You know what I love about humans?" Tanaka said. "We never know when to quit." She cut the transmission. "All ships," she said into her communicator. "Begin Operation Chaos." The human fleet scattered like seeds in the wind. The Concord ships tried to track them, but humans did not fly in formations. They did not follow patterns. Each captain made their own choices, changed direction randomly, attacked from unexpected angles. The battle was not fair. It was never going to be fair. But the humans did not fight fair either. Captain Elias Okonkwo commanded a small destroyer called the Defiant. He was 34 years old, born in Lagos, and he had a wife and 2 daughters waiting for him on Earth. He knew he would probably never see them again. His ship dove into the asteroid belt with 3 Concorde vessels chasing him. They were faster, they were stronger, but they did not know the asteroids like he did. He led them through narrow gaps between spinning rocks. He used the gravity of larger asteroids to whip his ship around in tight turns. When the first Concorde ship crashed into a rock it had not seen coming, his crew cheered. On the bridge of the Phoenix, Admiral Tanaka directed the battle like a conductor leading an orchestra of fire and death. She sent small ships to attack, then retreat, drawing the enemy into traps. She launched missiles that were actually decoys, hiding real attacks behind them. The Concorde commanders were confused. Their predictive algorithms could not understand what the humans were doing. Every tactic was different. Every ship was unpredictable. It was like trying to catch smoke with their hands, but numbers are numbers. For every Concorde ship that fell, humanity lost 20. Then the pacification beams began. The first beam hit the moon. Luna cracked like an egg hit with a hammer. Pieces of silver rock began to drift apart. Billions of people on Earth watched their moon break into pieces and screamed. But the real horror was the second beam. It hit the city of Mumbai. 20 million people stopped moving at the exact same moment. They stood where they were, their faces going blank, their eyes going empty. Then they began to smile. All of them. The same smile. They had been synthesized. Admiral Tanaka watched the reports come in with a face made of stone. How long until they can fire again? 2 hours to recharge. 2 hours. Then another city would fall. And another. And another. Until there was no one left to fight. In his laboratory on Earth, Dr. Marcus Cole worked faster than he had ever worked in his life. His team of scientists surrounded him, all of them running on coffee and fear. "I've found it," he said suddenly. His voice was quiet, almost a whisper. "I've found a way to disrupt the synthesis signal." His assistant looked at the data. "That's impossible. The signal operates on a quantum frequency. Nothing can block it." "Nothing can block it," Marcus agreed. "But something can cancel it out. A counter frequency. Like noise-canceling headphones. But for the brain, what generates the counter frequency?" Marcus was quiet for a long moment. "A human mind. A conscious, thinking human mind, transmitting at full power." He took off his glasses. "The process would destroy the brain completely. It's a suicide mission." The room went silent. "But it would work? For anyone within range of the transmission?" "Yes. It would break the synthesis and set them free." Captain Elias Okonkwo received the message 3 hours later. He was hiding in the shadow of Ceres, the largest asteroid, with his damaged ship and his exhausted crew. He read the message twice. Then he walked to his quarters and recorded a video for his wife and daughters. He told them he loved them. He told them to be brave. He told them that sometimes the most important thing a person could do was to stand up and say no. Then he flew his ship directly toward the 3 nearest pacification vessels. The Concorde ships did not understand what he was doing. They tried to stop him, but he was too close. He reached the center of their formation and activated the counter-frequency transmitter. The signal went out like a wave of light. It hit the pacification vessels and everything inside them. 3 million beings woke up. They had been synthesized for hundreds of years. Some had been synthesized for thousands. They had forgotten what it felt like to think their own thoughts, to feel their own feelings, to be alone in their own heads. Now they remembered, and they screamed. It was not a sound of pain. It was something worse. It was the sound of beings realizing what had been taken from them, what they had lost, what they had allowed to be done to them and to others. Captain Okonkwo's ship went dark. The counter-frequency had done its work, and so had the cost. His brain was gone. His body drifted among the awakened ships like a seed pod that had released its seeds. On the Concorde flagship, the voice of harmony felt something it had not felt in 11,000 years. Fear. "Stop the attack," it commanded. "All ships, stop the attack." "Why?" asked another Concorde commander. "We are winning. Look at the awakened ones," the voice said. "Look at what they are doing." The freed beings were not joining the battle. They were floating in space, crying, holding each other, trying to remember who they had been before the synthesis took them. But they were also looking at the Concorde fleet. and in their eyes was something the Concorde had worked for 11,000 years to destroy: anger. "This is not over," the voice said quietly. "This is just beginning." On Earth, Admiral Tanaka received the news of Captain Okonkwo's sacrifice. She bowed her head for one moment. Just one moment. Then she raised it again. "Send his family the video," she said, "and tell the fleet, we keep fighting. We don't stop until they do." The battle was not over. The war was not won. But something had changed. Humanity had shown the galaxy that the Concorde could be hurt, that the synthesis could be broken, that there was another way, and somewhere, in the dark spaces between stars, other species began to listen. The first rebellion began on a world called Tessarix. The Tessari were tall beings with skin like blue velvet and 6 arms that they used to make beautiful things. Before the synthesis, they had been sculptors. They had carved entire mountains into artwork that could be seen from space. They had been one of the first species to join the Concorde 9,000 years ago. Now they remembered. A Tessari named Vel was working in a processing center when the memory hit her. Not a new memory, an old one. A memory of her great-great-grandmother telling her stories about the old days. About passion. About anger. About love so strong it hurt. She had not thought of that memory in 8,000 years. The synthesis had buried it deep, like a seed under frozen ground. But now the ground was thawing. Vel put down her tools. She walked out of the processing center. She walked through the perfect streets of her perfect city and she began to scream. Other Tessari stopped and stared at her. Some of them looked confused. Some of them looked scared. But a few of them looked like they were waking up from a long, long sleep. By the end of the day, there were 10,000 Tessari screaming in the streets. By the end of the week, there were 10 million. The Concorde sent ships to restore order. The ships never returned. Captain Okonkwo's final transmission had been broadcast across every frequency in the galaxy. Admiral Tanaka had made sure of that. His last words played on repeat, in every language, translated by the very technology the Concorde had given humanity. "You offered us peace, but peace without choice is just a prettier cage." On 100 worlds, beings heard those words and felt something stir inside them. Something the synthesis had tried to kill. Something that refused to die. On Earth, Dr. Marcus Cole worked without rest. His laboratory had become the center of a new kind of war. Scientists from newly freed species arrived every day, eager to help, desperate to make up for thousands of years of slavery. "We can immunize minds against the synthesis," a Tessari scientist told him. Her name was Vel, and she had traveled across the galaxy to join the fight. "Your counter-frequency gave us the key. Now we need to build a door." They worked together, human and alien, former enemies and new friends. They argued. They shouted. They made mistakes and fixed them and made new mistakes. It was messy and chaotic and beautiful. Within a month, they had created the Awakening Protocol, a signal that could be broadcast from any ship, any station, any device with enough power. It would not just break the synthesis, it would make minds immune to it forever. Admiral Tanaka looked at the data and smiled for the first time in weeks. "How do we spread it?" "That's the problem," Marcus said. "We need to get close to the Harmony Spires. Those are the towers that broadcast the synthesis signal across the galaxy. We take those down, and we can spread the protocol everywhere." "How many spires are there?" 12. 1 in each sector of conquered space. "And they'll be heavily defended." "Yes." Tanaka nodded slowly. "Then we attack all 12 at once. We split our forces and hit them simultaneously. They won't be able to respond to all of us. We don't have enough ships for that." "We do now." She pulled up a display. It showed fleets gathering from across the galaxy. Tessari ships, angular and beautiful. Veth ships, made of colored glass. Ships from species that had no names, because the synthesis had taken even that from them. All of them, flying toward Earth. "They want to fight," Tanaka said. "They want to remember what it feels like to choose." The voice of Harmony appeared one more time. It came to Earth alone, on a small shuttle, and requested a meeting with Admiral Tanaka. They met in a ruined park in what had once been Geneva. The city was still standing, but it was scarred. Craters marked the places where Concorde weapons had struck. Buildings leaned against each other like tired soldiers. "You have caused more destruction in 3 months than the Concorde has seen in 3,000 years, the voice said. Its crystal body looked duller now, less perfect. Billions are dying. Billions were already dead, Tanaka replied. They just didn't know it. We gave them peace. You gave them nothing. You took everything that mattered and left empty shells behind. She stepped closer to the alien. Tell me something. When was the last time a Concord species produced a poet, a rebel, a dreamer? The voice was silent. When was the last time any of you felt something so strongly that you would die for it, or kill for it, or change for it? Still silent. You haven't felt anything real in 11,000 years. You're not alive. You're just existing. There's a difference. The voice's light flickered. We had to make a choice. Our species nearly destroyed itself. The wars, the hatred, the endless cycle of violence. We had to find another way. So you killed yourselves to stop killing each other? We saved ourselves. No. Tanaka shook her head. You gave up. You were scared of what you might become, so you stopped becoming anything at all. That's not peace. That's just a very slow extinction. The voice was quiet for a long moment. When it spoke again, its voice was different, smaller, almost sad. Perhaps you are right. Perhaps we made a mistake, but it is too late for us. We cannot go back. You could try. We would not survive. Our minds have been connected for too long. Without the synthesis, we would not know how to exist. Tanaka looked at the alien. For the first time, she felt something other than anger. She felt pity. Then step aside. She said softly, let the others wake up. Let them make their own choice. I cannot. The core will not allow it. The original species, the ones who created the synthesis, they still control everything. They will never let the Concord fall. Then we'll just have to make them. The voice nodded slowly. I thought you would say that. It turned to leave, then stopped. For what it is worth, Admiral, I hope you win. Not for your sake. For ours. Perhaps if you destroy the synthesis, some small part of what we were will finally be able to rest. It walked away into the ruins and did not look back. Tanaka watched it go. Then she picked up her communicator. All fleets, she said. Prepare for final assault. We attack in 48 hours. Across the galaxy, ships began to move. Human and alien. Wounded and angry. Free and fighting to stay that way. The largest battle in the history of the universe was about to begin, and for the first time in 11,000 years, the Concord was afraid. The Prime Harmony Spire rose from the center of the Concord homeworld, like a needle made of frozen light. It was the oldest structure in the galaxy, built before most species had discovered fire. From this single tower, the synthesis spread to every corner of known space. Admiral Tanaka stood on the bridge of the Phoenix and looked at it through her view screen. Behind her ship, a fleet of 10,000 vessels waited. Human destroyers flew beside Tesserae cruisers. Veth-glass ships reflected the light of alien suns. 100 species. Once enemies. Now brothers and sisters in rebellion. All fleet commanders, Tanaka said. This is it. We take down this spire and we win. The awakening protocol is loaded and ready. The moment that tower falls, we broadcast to the entire galaxy. Admiral, her first officer said. The core fleet is moving to intercept. Tanaka looked at the enemy formation. The core species, the original creators of the synthesis, had kept the most powerful ships for themselves. They were ancient and terrible. Weapons of a war that had ended before Earth existed. How many? 500 capital ships. Twice that in support vessels. And on our side? We have heart. And stubbornness. And nothing left to lose. Tanaka smiled. That's always been enough for humans. Let's see if it's enough for the galaxy. The battle began. It was not like the stories. There was no grand strategy, no brilliant tactics. It was chaos and fire and death. Ships crashed into each other. Weapons tore holes in reality itself. Beings died by the millions on both sides. The Phoenix pushed through the center of the fight, taking damage with every meter. Admiral Tanaka refused to leave the bridge, even when fire broke out behind her command chair. Get me through, she said. Whatever it takes, get me to that spire. Around her, ships fell. The Tesserae flagship, the Awakened Dream, broke in half trying to shield the Phoenix from a killing blow. The Veth commander, a being made of colored glass, shattered her own ship against a core destroyer to clear a path. Dr. Marcus Cole was not on any ship. He was on Earth. watching the battle through a relay, waiting to transmit the awakening protocol the moment the spire fell. His hands shook as he watched the death count rise. "Come on," he whispered. "Come on, Yuki. You can do this." The voice of Harmony appeared on a screen in his laboratory. It was alone on the Concord homeworld, watching the battle from the surface. "Your admiral is brave," it said. "Foolish, but brave. The Corps will not let her reach the spire." "Then why are you talking to me instead of helping them?" The voice was quiet for a moment. "Because I want her to win. I told her the truth, Doctor. I hope she destroys us. I hope she ends the nightmare we created 11,000 years ago." Its crystal body flickered. "I just do not believe she can." In space, the Phoenix broke through the last line of defense. The spire was directly ahead, rising from the planet's surface like a sword pointed at the stars. "All power to forward weapons," Tanaka ordered. "Fire everything we have." The ship screamed as it unleashed its full payload. Missiles, energy beams, everything humanity had built in 3 decades of desperate preparation. It all struck the spire at once, and the spire did not fall. "Damage report? Minimal. The tower is protected by some kind of field we've never seen before. Our weapons can't penetrate it." Tanaka stared at the spire. After everything, after all the sacrifice, after Captain Okonkwo and the Tisari flagship and thousands of ships burned to nothing, they had failed. Then she heard a voice on the communication channel. It was weak and broken, barely recognizable. "Admiral Tanaka, this is the voice of Harmony." "Voice? Where are you?" "Inside the spire. I have been walking toward the core since our last conversation. There is a way to bring down the field, but it must be done from within." "How?" "The field is powered by the synthesis itself, by the connected minds of 4,000 species. If someone were to broadcast your counterfrequency from the center of the spire, it would sever all connections at once. The field would fall. And the person who did it? Silence. Then, they would not survive. Neither would I. But I told you, Admiral. I want this to end." Tanaka closed her eyes. "Voice, you don't have to do this." "No. I want to. For the first time in 11,000 years, I want something. And that means I am already free." The voice's transmission grew weaker. "Tell the freed ones. Tell them I am sorry. Tell them I am finally awake." The channel went dead. For one long moment, nothing happened. Then the spire flickered. Its light died. The protective field vanished like morning mist. "The field is down," the first officer shouted. "The spire is unprotected. All ships," Tanaka commanded. "Fire." 10,000 ships opened fire at once. The spire cracked. It shattered. It fell. And from Earth, Dr. Marcus Cole pressed a button. The awakening protocol went out. It spread through every relay, every station, every ship. It touched every mind connected to the synthesis. 4,000 species woke up at the same time. For a moment, the galaxy was filled with screaming, pain and confusion and terror. Then, slowly, something else emerged. Wonder, joy, grief for what had been lost, hope for what might be found. The core fleet stopped fighting. Their ships drifted, crewed by beings who were trying to remember how to think for themselves. The war was over. 30 years passed. Admiral Yuki Tanaka stood on a piece of Luna that had been rebuilt into a memorial. She was old now, her hair white, her body bent, but her eyes were still sharp. Around her, children played. Human children and alien children, running together, arguing over games, shouting and laughing. It was loud and messy and chaotic. It was beautiful. Dr. Marcus Cole stood beside her. He was old too, leaning on a cane. But he was smiling. "We did a good thing," he said. "We did a hard thing," Tanaka replied. "I'm still not sure if it was good." She looked at the stars. The galaxy was different now. Wars happened. Conflicts broke out. Species argued and fought and sometimes hurt each other. But they also created. They dreamed. They built things that had never existed before, and wondered about things that might never be understood. They were alive in a way the Concord had never allowed. A young Tisari child walked up to Tanaka. She had blue velvet skin and 6 arms, and she was holding a sculpture she had made from moon rock. "Excuse me," the child said. "Are you the human who broke the cage?" Tanaka smiled. "I helped. A lot of people helped. My grandmother told me about the before times. when everyone was the same and nothing ever changed. The child looked at her sculpture. It was rough and imperfect and wonderful. She said she never made anything beautiful until after she woke up. She said the humans taught her that mistakes are how you learn. Your grandmother is wise. The child nodded seriously. I have a question. Do you ever feel bad that you chose fighting instead of peace? Tanaka knelt down, her old knees complaining, and looked into the child's eyes. We didn't choose fighting, she said softly. We chose the right to choose. Does that make sense? The child thought about it for a moment. Then she smiled. Yes, she said. It makes all the sense. She ran off to play with the other children. Tanaka watched her go. The noise of the playground washed over her like music. Somewhere, a human boy was crying because he lost a game. Somewhere else, an alien girl was laughing because she had just discovered a joke. It was imperfect, and painful, and alive. Marcus put his hand on her shoulder. Was it worth it? He asked. Tanaka looked at the stars, at the broken pieces of the old moon, at the children playing together in the chaos of a galaxy that had finally learned to wake up. Ask me again in 1,000 years, she said. But I think the answer will be yes. Above them, the stars burned on. Not perfectly, not forever, but bright enough to light the darkness, and that was enough. That had always been enough.